That's weird. Okay. Oh, we're rolling.
Unpack your knives and stay. Yes, stay. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Top Chef RHAPup. I am Haley Strong. I am here to do both the elimination challenge and the quickfire and judge everyone for that equally. Curt Clark, you giggled at that joke. I didn't think it was one of my best, but thank you anyway.
No, I'm glad you called it out because I think we're going to have a deep discussion around, we've already discussed this season, all the different changes that they've made with in addition to, Kristen Kish. But yeah, I'm looking forward to us getting into the revised quickfire rules. Suddenly there are stakes. Anyway, great to be here.
And Latanya has not joined us, but we also have some other changes in the lineup. Welcome, Peih Gee Law, to the Top Chef RHAPup for your first chance at bat here. How are you doing?
Surprise! Your new host. I'm just kidding.
Latanya, don't worry. We have not fully replaced you.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so thrilled that I finally get to talk about Top Chef so I used to be a huge Top Chef fan when it first came out, over 10 years ago now, I think.
Yeah. I think like almost 20 at this point.
Yeah, because this is 21. This is season 21.
Yeah.
Right, and they do one a year.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not inflated numbers like Survivor.
Yeah.
So I watched it so long ago, and then I don't remember why I stopped. Maybe I stopped having cable, or one of the seasons, was it 9 or something, just really kind of burned me out.
9's very bad. And I rewatch Top Chef, I'd say once to twice a year. And I have never rewatched Top Chef Texas since my original watch back in the day.
It was hard to get through. But anyhow, I was recently surfing on Netflix, and they've got 2 seasons of Top Chef on Netflix. So I revisited, I think one of them was maybe the one that Kristen was on originally.
Was that the Seattle season?
Yeah.
Maybe, but then I know the other one was Denver. They had 2 seasons on there. And I watched them both, and I was like, I forgot how much I love Top Chef. So then I got a subscription to Peacock, and then I embarked on the marathon of watching every single one all the way through. I don't know how you do this once or twice a year, because this took me a solid 2 months of my life, and I watched it religiously. We're talking 3 to 4 episodes a night. I live with my sister. She'd come home and she'd be like, "That show again? It's still on."
I have a job where I don't have to talk to people, and I have one of those brains where I can't have quiet. So it is a work time show. My Hey You subscription is probably the most valuable thing in my life. I've watched about 7 seasons of Below Deck in the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's nuts.
Top Chef Peacock keeps trying to dump me into Below Deck whenever I finish watching.
I don't think it's for you, Curt, but it is for me. I don't think you need Below Deck in your life like I do.
I'm good.
Well, I have been chomping at the bit to talk about Top Chef, because I would be sporadically tweeting about it when I'd finish a season. I think is 20 was that the last All-Star?
That was the world one, the one that took place in London.
That one was very good, but also the one where Melissa won. Is that spoiler alert? If you're listening to this, I assume
if they're listening to this, if you're listening to this, you better watch that season of Top Chef and also listen to our coverage about it. So,
but
kidding. Go back.
That All-Star Top Chef is the best season of Top Chef ever filmed. I wanted to talk about the episode every single week, and I was like, why do I have nobody to talk to about this? So I'm glad to be on now, but unfortunately, I have to say, Milwaukee is not my favorite. Not loving this season is.
It is a little bit of a tough season, and I think we've talked about it a bit on the podcast, where they are trying to just find their footing. I feel like they saw Kristen coming in as a new host as an opportunity to really mess with things, when I don't think it was the time to do so, because Kristen has been so good. I don't think I feel like the hosting has been a fairly seamless transition. And 2, it's we love Top Chef as it is. Let's just let it be, and we're having a nice time. I don't know if is that kind of how you feel about it too, or are you you more of a hater about different aspects?
The changes, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't mind it. Just like whenever they introduce new things on Survivor, I'm never like, I hate it. I think sometimes you have to change things up a little bit to keep things spicy, to keep it on their toes. What I think the main issue with this season is lackluster characters. You know, I feel like, and maybe, so look, I'm biased because I have a tendency, I'm always drawn to the hot mess express. I was a Michelle fan. I was like a Stefan fan. Like, I like the messy, I like the messy, reality character casting. That's for me, that's like I want to watch that, I want people that aren't like robots. And I feel like so many people this season are just generically nice, or they're playing it safe. And, the only person who had potential was the guy who was voted off first, the really obnoxious guy with the cowboy hat. Like, I was really looking forward to watching him on this season.
The one who mysteriously vanished from Last Chance Kitchen without an appearance.
Yes. This is very much giving us Vetus vibes.
Yeah.
It's a deep cut from Second Chances.
Oh, wow, what a throwback!
It's because I do feel that there was an intentional shift from a casting perspective to get away from the drama. Like, it was like, let's focus on the cooking, the chefing, and let's not cast for situations where someone's head might get shaved.
I mean, look, it doesn't have to be like a drama per se, but like, give me personality. You can still have, like, I think you got the holy trinity in reality casting. They have to be sexy. They have to be funny. And the third was conflict. It doesn't have to be major drama conflict, but I'll take charismatic, humorous, or something. And I just feel like it's not giving.
Yeah, I would say this season is definitely a little more sly when it comes to the personalities. I found that this episode particularly was like a pretty funny episode. I feel like we got a lot of one-liners from our favorites, and I found myself giggling a little bit. But yeah, I can see where you're understand where you're coming from, where it is very much more like, why don't we hold hands with each other?
Well, and I think also the food has been a little bit underwhelming. And, I forget which episode it was, but at one point, Kristen and Boudeleaux had to come out and really kind of like just grab them by the necks and shake them a little bit and be like, you can do better.
I think Buddha even wrote about it in his blog, being like, that was bad.
I think
bad.
Was that I think that was the Frank Lloyd Wright one. I could be, I could be wrong, but I think it was right.
We're here all week, folks.
Yeah. I think there was that shakeup when they had the hotly contested chaos food challenge, because we felt like coming out of that the next episode felt like there's a lot more creativity in terms of what they did, but I think they quickly backslid into like out of that area of discomfort.
I hated the chaos food challenge. Like, what does it even mean?
Thank you.
Then I don't think the judges even knew what criteria they're judging on. Like, it has to taste good, but it has to be chaotic. Like, what does that mean?
Yep.
It's so non-specific, and then people were getting dinged, but they're like, there's no particular criteria. Like,
Haley, I believe that's 3-1 in against the chaos food episode.
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys hate fun. Sounds like a you guys problem and not a me problem.
And not to dwell on that episode, but PG, there was the one part where they were judging the food, and Tom said, "This seems really simple," and then the guest judge was like, but what if the simplicity is the chaos? I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm like, no, stop it.
Open your mind. Stop thinking inside the box. Come on, guys.
Yeah. But
join me on the other side.
All right, I feel like I came on and I started hating on everything.
No, please, bring it.
Well, it's as a Midwesterner myself, I do feel like there hasn't been a lot of, like, once we got past the cheese challenge in episode 2, and the beer challenge in the bar food challenge in episode 1 or 2. If I felt like we kind of tapped Wisconsin dry, not to play into like the stereotypes of my home region, but yeah, there just hasn't been a lot of iconic things. And I know they went to Madison for some challenges, but like I kind of missed it when they went they made it back to Milwaukee. When did that happen? It feels just kind of like a little bit homogenous in terms of where they're at. But again, I just described the Midwest. So
I mean, I was really excited for the theming of today's elimination challenge. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but because whenever I think of Milwaukee, this is showing my age. I always just think of Alice Cooper in Wayne's World, where he comes on and he goes on about Milwaukee, and what it means. And to me, Wayne's World was like my favorite movie growing up as a kid. And so in the back of my head, that's one of the associations I always have with it. So I was really excited for the Native American Food Challenge.
And it feels like, and I think it was, they did something similar with Seattle, I believe. There was if I'm getting my seasons correct, there was an indigenous
Portland.
food challenge. Oh, Portland? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because it wasn't until like, I would say after COVID, did they finally start going, maybe we should try something other than French and Italian.
Yeah.
Maybe, perhaps there's other cuisines possible that are good. Yeah, I really love that we are doing another Indigenous food challenge. We are bringing people on who know what they're talking about. I love that they're like calling out the food industry, being like, our food is just as valid and there should be more restaurants and you haven't been to one. Okay, well, maybe you should change that. I loved the dinner that they had so that all of the chef testants could have an idea of what they should be cooking, how they should be cooking it, why. I thought it was really interesting that they only had the ingredients that are indigenous to that area. And I love the explanation of like, they had their own trade routes. Like that's how they had corn and everything. I feel like that's not stuff we hear very often. So just as like a history, geography interested person, like I love hearing those little aspects of this show. I'm so thrilled that we had this challenge.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I really liked the family dinner. I kind of wished that they had gone out to the restaurants or out to one of their homes, which they have done before in the past. I really wanted to see them go to like a market or even out to, they'll take them out to the local field where they're grown. And I actually really wanted to see them doing like an ingredient tasting. I think it's cool that they had the dinners, but I think when you're expecting them to cook with the food, if they had done more of we're out in the fields and here are all the ingredients and you can taste them. And then now we're going to go home and have the family dinner, which I've seen them do this in the past. I would have liked that because I wanted to see the separate ingredients highlighted. And I think it would have been helpful for the chefs as well to really know kind of what they're getting into a little bit more.
Especially since they made like a big note of all of these ingredients came from indigenous vendors in this area from their lands. So yeah, I think to be able to like, let's make this a 2-hour episode and we go to each of these places. Like, where are they getting the meat from? Where are they getting the veg from? Where are they getting like this from?
Or skip the quick fire. Sometimes they skip.
Yeah, you know what? They've been loving skipping quick fires this season. So why the heck not?
Because it seems like in setting up the elimination challenge, the story began like in the kitchen and then to the dining table. They didn't go back further. There's huge opportunity to, like you said, like was it the All-Star season where they went to Parma and they had like the Parma ham and they went to the Parmesan cheese. Yeah.
Okay, or remember in Boston when they had a cranberry challenge and they actually went out to the cranberry bog, and this was like, we have cranberry bog at home, because they walk into the kitchen.
Can we
listen? I will take any opportunity I can get to see Tom Colicchio and a pair of waiters.
And they're like in a kiddie pool.
I was gonna say, someone by the kiddie pool, and then I thought they were. I thought they were gonna like have to run around the kiddie pool to get the cranberries, but no, they had to like use those cranberries, like skim them out of the pool, and those are their ingredients.
I skimmed those cranberries.
That was a little bit weird too, where they're like, we better get out of this before they trample us, and then they're all gonna use the cranberries that they've all just been standing around it, and then that's what they're gonna cook with. And look, I get the waiters are probably clean. I'm sure they're washing them, but it was still a little bit weird.
Yeah, it was like one step away from use this wine in your cooking. Oh, we just stomped the grapes right here in front of you. You watched us. Look at Tom's feet.
It would have to ferment first, Curt.
Oh, okay. There's that. We'll wait 50 years.
You don't need that long.
No, I'm not a vintner. Let's talk about the new quickfire rule though, because up until we start this season, we're told.
I thought this was going to be like a 1 episode deal. Like the way they said it and in the preview, I thought this was going to be a 1 episode deal. But from here on out, the judges, they are looking at both the quickfire and the elimination, the dishes made. I thought I was going to like this, but then I realized like the guest judges often in the second part, they weren't in the first part. And it just feels like a little clunky when they're like, well, remember the first time they made a dish. Oh, the cranberry sauce was just a cranberry sauce.
Like the fact that we had to watch Gail pretty much say, we know you weren't there, but this is like
right there. It like exposes the flaw in this idea. Like I love the effort, Top Chef. Thank you for trying. I thought I was gonna like this more than I did, and alas.
Did it also feel a little bit like like, you know what, Kristen, I think you need a little oversight. So mom and dad are going to be here to do some oversight on the quick fires. Like we're going to be judging with you from now on. I don't know. It almost felt a little bit like that. Like
that's so interesting.
Like was she not doing a good enough job? And they felt like they needed to come insert themselves into this part of the judging, where before this was primarily like the Padma Kristen time with a random new guest. So is it because they're not having a different guest come in for the quickfires anymore? And now there's like 5 people judging. What?
Well, also I like don't totally understand at this point why they're like, okay, well, this is still gonna have stakes. It's like every other quickfires in every other season after immunity has been done, they still had like stakes. They still had something going on. So this just
whether it was an advantage in the elimination challenge, or at that point they would introduce a monetary prize. But
it's been weird. It feels
like they backtracked a little bit, because it used to be the quickfires gave you immunity in the elimination. So they're like, we're doing away with that. So the quickfires are now detached from eliminations altogether, and the quickfires are just for winning money. And then now halfway through the season, they're like, surprise, quickfires have an effect on elimination again.
But like more effect on elimination than before.
Yeah, and the opposite effect too. It's like you get the opposite of immunity. You get a target on your back if you
if you better not step outside.
And part of me, because usually also for the quickfires, they say, well, let's start with who's on the bottom, and then they'll get to who are the top 3 after they list who the bottom 3 are. And this time they listed who the top 3 were first. I was like, okay, they're not going to announce who the bottom 3 are, which I think would have been an interesting choice. I'm just thinking, like, from a game theory perspective, I'm wondering if that would have been better. Like, you go into the elimination challenge not feeling necessarily comfortable, because I felt like when we saw who the bottom 3 were in the elimination challenge, like, well, Michelle's safe.
Like my husband leaned over and was like, he's hasn't been watching reality TV for like a crazy amount of time. He's like finally catching on to like edits and stuff. He like leaned over and he was like, how much you want to bet that like both Amanda and Laura are going here because they're both in the bottom? I was like, oh, you're so right. And he was. It's just like
it takes away some of the mystique.
It does. So, it's just a little clunky feeling. You know what? We'll see next week how it feels. And
I mean, I would prefer that, in addition, if you're going to take the quickfire into account, then also maybe take into account their past performance, right? Not have it just be your very last meal is what we're judging everything on, and the entire rest of the show where you were doing amazing dishes, that has no bearing on tonight's elimination. Like, I hate that.
Totally.
You know, if you're judging them as the top chef, and I don't think that quickfires are an indication of what a good chef is. it's a different skill set, right? To perform well in the quickfire. So I would actually prefer if they were like, we're going to look at your past history going forward for elimination, but when you win a quickfire, maybe you get an advantage. Maybe you win. I like when they get extra time. So there's still an incentive to do well, but you get an advantage, and that's that, you know?
Yeah. And it not only is it a different skill set, it's also often within the quickfire a very focused and very, very niche like thing that you're testing. Like, okay, so they messed up on the cranberries. Is that the reason to get eliminated? Or to, like you said, PG, is like you take into the whole string of quickfires or the whole sequence of elimination challenges. I feel like every other episode or every other podcast, Haley, you always say, you know, Top Chef is a what have you done for me lately show. It's like literally.
So now it's like, what have you done for me lately? And slightly before lately. Not too far ahead.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like, it'll be interesting to see what happens when the top 3 quickfire people end up in the bottom 3 of the elimination, but that's probably never going to happen. And I just feel like if there's one person from the bottom of the quickfire who's in the bottom 3 of the elimination that takes all this, it's going to likely take all of the suspense out.
You're so right about that. So let's get into the quickfire challenge. Yeah. We have to make a dish featuring cranberries in a unique way, though. I swear to God, if I see a cranberry sauce, I'm going to lose my mind.
There was like 8 cranberry sauces.
If I see a sauce that is made of cranberry, I'm going to personally eliminate you right here now. Okay, now I need to poll you guys. Cranberry sauce, yay or nay at Thanksgiving?
No, I don't even need to think about this. I am not a cranberry sauce fan. I'm not a fan of fruits with meats or savory dishes in general. I don't even like the fig jam in charcuterie boards. Like, none of that. I want separation of fruits and meats.
Fruit and state.
Yeah.
I am the opposite. I want everything. I want fruit on everything. I want savory and sweet in every meal. I will say at Christmas dinner, my grandmother prepares beautiful cranberries with orange zest, and she's 93. It's like a tried and true recipe. Don't care about that shit. I want a can of cranberry sauce. And if it doesn't come out in the shape of the can, I do not want it near me.
That sound.
Yeah, I want the slurp. I want it in front of me. And what I do is I take a bun, I put mashed potatoes down, and then I put the turkey, and then I put the cranberry sauce on top. But I don't eat it like a sandwich. I take like one little piece of bun and I make little stacks, and then they're like my perfect bites. And then I like make all of the perfect bites, and then I make sure there's at least 1 or 2 perfect bites at the end. And then like if there's leftover potatoes, like I'll just eat those on their own. And leftover turkey, I'll just eat them on their own. There has to be a perfect bite left.
I will accept cranberry sauce on like a turkey sub. I do like. Okay, all right. Like a crisp, like there's like Thanksgiving, like a Thanksgiving sub where it's like turkey and
One of my go-to burgers. I'm sure you've been to the Counter before, PG, in LA.
No.
The burger chain where it's kind of like make your own burger. They're all. Check it out. You can do what I'll often do there is I'll get the only time I'll get a turkey burger, I'll get dried cranberries on it, and just kind of try to make the equivalent of like a Thanksgiving dinner burger. Highly recommend the Counter for anybody who's visiting Santa Monica, El Segundo, downtown. They're everywhere. For me, I think I have the same perspective as UPG. It's like I like cranberry sauce, but I don't like it with Thanksgiving dinner. Like there's a local grocery store near me that just at the beginning of April stopped serving cranberry sauce for like purchase at the deli. And I would just, for the longest time, I would get it just as like something to snack on, where I just get a bowl of this. It was like kind of orange cranberry sauce. And I did not eat it with meat. It was just more, you know what? I just finished some lunch. I'm going to have a bowl of this tasty cranberry sauce. It's very good.
I love cranberry sauce. Like I'll even like forego the turkey and just like put it in a grilled cheese. But I don't even I don't look at cranberry sauce as sweet. I look at it as like a tart option.
I look at it as tart.
People would also say that about me.
Yeah.
Laura made cranberry and walnut fessenden with pork. She was in the bottom with that dish. Manny made a pork tenderloin with brandy and cranberry sabayon, roasted radicchio, cranberry, and orange vinaigrette. Dan made a salt and pepper scallop with cranberry red curry and herbs. Sue made a beef carpaccio with beet, blackberry, and cranberry chutney. Danny made a cranberry poached sea bass with cranberry panade. Amanda made a corn and cranberry hoe cake with fried chicken and cranberry maple sauce. Michelle made cranberry and beet soup with seared foie gras and maple mascarpone. And Savannah made a seared scallop with cranberry nori relish and cranberry hot sauce. Laura, Manny, and Amanda were in the bottom with their dishes. Dan, Michelle, and Danny were in the top, with Danny coming out as the winner. And I have to say that Danny's sea bass was one of the most striking dishes I have ever seen. It was so beautiful.
It did look very good, and I liked that the cranberries on there looked fresh, because I will say, like, despite my rant on cranberries, I do really like cranberries, like fresh ones, when you can buy them, fresh around Thanksgiving time, sometimes just coated in sugar or just, those, I think those are very delicious. And so I think that would be really tasty, kind of like a more tart cherry thing. With the fish seemed a little bit odd, but the dish did look good.
Which of these dishes, if you had to and could only order one of these, PG, which one, regardless of the reaction of the judges, based on the description and what you saw them plating, which one here most called to you?
So 100% I would have gotten the fried chicken with cranberry maple and the hoe cakes. It looked so good. And even in this case, I was like, I will take fruit with my meat. I love fried chicken and waffles. It looked so good. And then the way she described the cranberry sauce, even though they're kind of hating on it and said it was generic, it was like cranberry sauce with maple and 5 spice. Like that sounded,
and Tabasco.
It sounded so yummy.
I agree with you. Like, reading that menu, I'm going with Amanda's dish every single day of the week.
Yeah, same for me. I was, frequent listeners will know my obsession with blackberries. So I was interested in what Sue had put together. There were a couple dishes that included beet, which I would not have associated with cranberries, but
the soup looked good. I would have tried the soup, and I think adding the foie gras to kind of balance the acidity with the fattiness, I thought that seemed really smart. I don't think it looked good. I think it looked interesting, and I would have liked to have tried it.
Yeah, I'll try anything once. Once.
I have to say that Laura's dish looked actively bad. Like with love in my heart, it was not it. Like, yeah, you could like see how grainy it was from like the photo. It was not like
okay. The color was unappetizing. It was
rough. It was really rough. I bet they saw that dish and they're like, no matter what she does in the elimination, like, babe's going home on this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say also, like, I loved how in Manny's dish, when they were like, how was it working with the cranberries? And he was just like, you just gotta go fast. I love how he didn't even answer. He didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, it was like the woman whose entire life is cranberries is like asking you this question. He's like, sure, like, what can I say that doesn't make her cry and hurt her feeling, Yeah, he's like, I had it for the first time last Thanksgiving. They're okay.
He's like, I'm here, aren't I? Isn't that good enough for you?
I wish they had given them options to use like dried cranberries also, or like other versions, because I
juice,
love
so that poor babe didn't have to like break the juicer.
Although I did, and it makes sense. Today I learned that cranberries do not grow in bogs. That's where like they just put them. Like, I guess if I had thought about it, I'd be like, yeah, they're really just floating loose there. There's no like vine. So I think if I had thought about it, I would have said, oh yeah, there's no way that they're growing there. They grow out, in the dirt. But so it would have been more fun, because we've seen things where they've had to like catch their own fish. They need to go bogging for their own cranberries. Come on.
They did that in Boston.
Yeah, exactly. They need to. Although I would have rather we didn't have this challenge and we had just one whole episode devoted to the elimination challenge.
Yeah, like I don't understand why in the other episodes they've gone out to the actual bog, and again here it was like we got a kiddie pool bog.
I wonder if the bog was just too far. Like, isn't it
That's
in
my
northern
guess.
Wisconsin where the bogs are?
Yeah.
Well, I know if they're in Milwaukee, that's in the southeast corner of the state, and so
Right.
so it's it's a good 4-hour drive to get to the if you're heading to Minneapolis to get to the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. So depending, you're going up near the UP of Michigan or wherever, it can be a good drive. So yeah, I'm guessing it's just because there was no local resource for it. But you know what? Then
I
rethink the
wonder
challenge.
if they were too worried about being too close to Canada, I guess.
Yeah, you guys are trouble.
Especially that part of Canada.
What that would be? That's not Alberta.
No, you know what? It's Ontario still.
What is that?
It's
Yeah, I
still
guess Ontario does.
Shockingly enough, still Ontario.
Ontario. Okay.
Ontario's fun. Yeah, there's so much of it. There is so much of it. It's always fun hearing people from Europe being like, I can drive to like 10 countries in one day. Like, I could drive in the same province for a full day and still not leave it. Anyway, that's been Geography Corner with Haley.
Oh, so we jump to the elimination challenge?
Yeah.
The elimination challenge. Create modern dishes using only indigenous ingredients, aka no dairy, wheat flour, cane sugar, pork, beef, or chicken. And they have a curated pantry of ingredients. And PG, the more I've thought about it, the more I am mad that they're just like, enjoy the cupboard, rather than being like, I don't know, let's talk to the people who made this stuff at IDK. But I do love, I love where this challenge is going. I love learning more about the indigenous food sphere. It's a lot of fun. And
I wanted to learn more. Like,
I know exactly. I want to learn more.
The huitlacoche, which is such an odd, unusual ingredient, and I know that they have covered it in other episodes, but still, like, shine more of a light on these ingredients. I just where did the time go? I don't understand.
In a previous season, we spent half an episode in a tofu factory. We learned about.
Oh, do I remember that?
I'm sure you do. Because there were the three kinds of tofu.
Is that in Portland too?
I feel like it was. But it was they had to they drew knives, I think, to determine which of the three kinds of tofu they had to create a dish.
And Dawn didn't finish 2 out of 3 of her dishes that episode.
Yeah, well, that's Dawn.
Yeah, typical Dawn. But also, Dan was like, I'm gonna make sunflowers, and I'm like, whoa! I did not know that you could eat a sunflower the way you ate an artichoke. And I guess he did a good enough job explaining how it could be used. But again, there was no breakdown. How would he have known that? Did they secretly give the contestants a breakdown of all the ingredients off camera that just we didn't see, or just did he know because he's a native, a Milwaukee native or whatever? I wish there was a little bit more explanation about those things.
This is where
you're so right. We just give us more.
Chef Jim Smith, if you're listening, let us know in the on social media. Come back in and give us the inside scoop on how much between challenge briefings you guys get on the ingredients.
Yeah, is it the full Jeff Probst challenge rundown, or where everyone gets to ask questions, or are they just loose?
Yeah.
Now, I have a question. How do you feel about contestants having a fight for their ingredients? I've always kind of been a little bit why not just have enough for them to use what they want? Why are we making this a limited resource thing? I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you 100%, especially because the show has steered away, as you kind of pointed out earlier, away from the early 2010s of high drama reality television, where those kinds of things made sense then. They don't as much now, where you're there should be as much bison as everybody wants, available. Everyone can do bison if they want to do bison, unless it's a specific, we've seen a couple challenges where it's okay, the first person who drew a knife gets first pick, or the second, unless it's within the confines of what the challenge is. You're right, there should just be everything for everyone.
Like the you get to go first. Pick a random door to see which cherry you have to cook with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was this episode where Dan was like, Grandpa Dan coming through. Like, he's got a cane. Like, don't make Dan run for ingredients, please. Let's do this in some sort of more economical manner. But yeah, I'm more a fan of the, either have enough for everybody or have some sort of way to determine a picking order. Don't make people run for the ingredients.
All right. Well, I do like how everybody was very inspired by this challenge. Like, that is very much appreciated by me personally. Michelle made an acorn squash polenta cake with braised rabbit, smoked onion, and mushrooms. Amanda made elk tataki tartare with confit mushrooms, pipian rojo, and duck fat tortilla. Danny made a pheasant crepinette with mole and roasted sunchokes. Laura made duck tamal wrapped in mustard greens with huckleberry sauce and haricot. Dan made a sunflower choke with braised goose and aronia berry puree. Sue made roasted butternut squash with huilicoche puree and wild rice gnocchi. For those watching the YouTube video, I did the air quotes. Just
you did too.
Manny made duck breast with braised mustard greens, wild rice cake, ancho guajillo, and plum sauce. And Savannah made a squash and maple jelly cake with aronia berries, grapes, and plum jelly. We see Michelle, Amanda, and Laura fall into the bottom with their dishes, and Dan, Sue, and Savannah rise to the top of the cranberry bog with theirs, with Savannah coming on top as the winner.
Ooh,
that was a better joke. I would say that was one of my better jokes of the episode. Definitely better than the joke at the beginning that you laughed at.
I was impressed. It was good. It was a good joke.
Thank you. I thought these dishes were really gorgeous, and I thought it was funny that they all seemed to match the centerpieces on the table.
I liked how different they all were. Like, it felt like most people kind of went in a different direction. It wasn't like 20 croquettes, Yeah.
And this is my limited brain. I was like, oh, you can't use pork, beef, or chicken. Well, there go the proteins. I was like, and
no meat for us, I guess.
These are supposed to all be vegetarian dishes because there's no meat outside of pork, beef, and chicken. And then I was
Did they not have boar? There's no boar, I guess.
I don't know if they didn't have any boar. I don't know if I've not seen any wild boars in my area. That doesn't mean that they're not native to. I'm sure that there's boars in Wisconsin. But like the moment they were like, we're talking about the around the dining table, they're like, oh, this is the duck dish. I'm like, of course. Like there's plenty of other options.
There was a lot of other options.
Yeah,
and it was cool. It was cool for them to be like to do other stuff than like pork, beef, or chicken. Like,
yeah, that was
they
nice.
found those boxes so often that it's nice that they had to do something a little different.
Yeah.
Which out of these dishes are you ordering at a menu? At a restaurant from a menu?
I'm ordering the sunflowers because when are you ever gonna have a chance to eat that? It's so time consuming. Like, you never see that on the menus. So like, this is my problem is whenever I go to any restaurant, I always order the interesting looking item, or I always order the thing that I've never seen before. And then it's always a toss up 50-50, 50% chance that I hate it. And then I always end up eating my sister's meal. And she's like, you always do this.
See, like the great thing about my current romantic partnership is that we are both enjoyers of food. So we'll be like, okay, we'll get one risky dish and one non-risky dish so we can like share so that there's like a fallback for both of us. Nobody's mad, but then we get to try the weird dish.
The goose and aronia berry puree sounds very holiday. But do you either of you know the difference between a sunflower choke and a sunchoke? Are they the same?
No, a sunchoke I think is like looks more artichoke-y, if I'm not mistaken, which I truly could be.
I was happy to see Dan praised for his use of foam, and that Kristen was like, this is like, she's like 99.9% of the time, foam it serves no point on a dish, but here it actually did.
I'm happy for her. I still didn't want to see it.
I was glad to see the end of foam because, I just did my whole marathon, and it's funny seeing the culinary trends through like the 2 decades that it spanned. And it was like that one 10-year period where it was all foams, and then after that it was like all crudos,
It was like the Richard Blais era, and molecular gastronomy was like a huge thing on Top Chef for so many years. Apparently the foam worked because it seeped into this is going to sound disgusting, the crevices.
I don't need my food to seep into other crevices of my food.
Melted into.
I saw the one season where they were like, I think the food was described as congealed. I think the chef was like, "Is that a good thing?" And like, no, congealed is never a good thing. That may have been Portland again. But there was, as much fun as Tom made about the tataki tatar tacos of Amanda.
Yeah, do you know how hard it was to sit here and try and say elk tataki tartar like on a microphone?
I want to try that. I've recently.
I'm not a tataki fan. I feel like I either want it tartar or I just want it cold. Like I want it raw and cold, or if it's like seared, I want it like hot and like seared all over. And I find this half-assed, like half cold, and then it's kind of charred. I don't know. I find it a little bit weird. I find it weird that it's half hot and half cold.
But how do you typically eat your elk, Peih Gee?
I've never had elk, but I did have venison. A friend of mine went hunting, and my cousin's husband actually had gone hunting and had a ton of it in his freezer. And she was like, and she knows that I make food for my dog. And she was like, "Oh my God." She was like, "Do you want some of this?" And I was like, "Yes." She was like, "Good, get this the hell out of my." Half of her freezer was dedicated to the bits of this animal. And so she gave me so much of it. And at that time, I think my sister was like, "We're eating this." She was like, "Times are tough. Like in this economy," she was like, "We're eating this." And she made a bolognese, and it was so good. It was better than beef. It was so flavorful. It wasn't gamey. The texture was kind of like soft. It was really tender. I'm a venison fan. So I have not had elk. I don't know how similar it is to venison, but I would try it.
It seemed like Amanda was at least comfortable in preparing it. I thought the Amanda is the gift that keeps on giving.
I love her so much. Like she is the one person from this season who I pray watches Top Chef so we can call her next season and be like, please just hang out with us for like an hour 20, please.
Yeah, she's a hunter, she's a D&D player, she's really dry sense of humor. She's just ticks all the boxes. Great person. But
the hunting thing was like such a surprise, right?
Yes.
We also like that they you could tell she was like this. Like, okay, let me recreate the photo. You have to go on the YouTube channel. It was like this. Like the deer was out of frame. It was like they were like, we're not showing that on television. This is Bravo. Like
you know what though? I am a hunter. I'm a supporter of hunters. In fact, there was a while where I kind of thought if you wanted to eat meat in your lifetime, if you want to be able to eat meat after a certain age, you need to go out and hunt and kill your own animal and dress it and everything. So you know what the process is. You know what has to happen in order for you to be able to eat meat. Like this animal had to die, somebody had to dress it, somebody had to go. So if you've done all that, then okay, and then you can you have a license to eat meat. It's controversial, but I feel like just having that basic understanding of what happens, I think really means a lot.
Yeah. And living in West Michigan, there's a large hunting culture here. And my dad, I did not inherit the hunting gene from him, but I have gotten lots of hand-me-down. Like he's like made his own like rifles from kits that it's great. But he is very much like you hunt your own venison, and just like you described, Peih Gee, it's like you get the whole deer. I mean, it takes up your entire freezer. You never really just get a little bit of venison unless you got it from somebody else. So between duck eggs from his farm and venison, it's like every so often during the year, my fridge will be packed with the stuff. So it was
awesome.
It can be tasty.
Ship some out to me.
So when Kristen swore about Savannah's dish, I was very nervous for her for a second, and especially because then we go see Tom go. Like I was like, what is the feeling? What are we feeling now, guys?
Yeah, it was a little ambiguous. A little ambiguous.
I like rewinded like 4 times to see like what Kristen said and tried to like read her expression. But no, they loved it. They were so interested by this dish. They even were like pushed Manny's dish off the table. Basically, like they flipped the table and they're like, no, only Savannah's dish. Get all of this out of here.
I didn't think we were going to get feedback on Manny's dish, to be honest.
Like, I feel like I have to know what is the texture of a jelly cake,
right?
What does that mean?
And the guest judges were all about, and the story that Savannah was telling, and this was great culinary storytelling, was that she didn't try to force the ingredients in a specific direction. She was letting them speak to her, and when something started to, I almost said congeal, when something started to gel, she just let it gel. Like she let the ingredients be what they needed to be, which sounds from the outside looking in to be a lot of whatever, but great thing to say as part of this challenge. And I have no doubt that that's what she was experiencing, and I had like zero doubt that she was going to be the winner when she was
100%.
Yeah. I totally get that. Well, because look, when I was watching Sue struggling with his wild rice, gnocchi, the dumplings, and at that point you're like, bro, just pivot. Like, do something else. This isn't working out for you. I mean, and look, to his credit, he turned it around. That was the one dish where I was like, this is a flop. I really liked him. I was like, oh, I'm going to be sad to see him go. I was already mourning him. Like, and then it turned out good. Surprise, like a shocker, but I feel like I kind of get that that's at that moment he could have pivoted and changed to something else, and he stuck with it and made it work. But, she kind of just let like whatever was happening happen, and it worked out for her. And so I'm like, okay, now I kind of understand what they say when they're like, let the ingredients talk to you and figure out what they want to be.
Yeah. The pivot thing's a great comment, because it was, we've seen chefs get penalized before for calling something a gnocchi as they serve it, and it's very obviously not that, and they walk away and tell and be like, okay, but that's not a gnocchi,
Yeah, I almost felt like it wasn't fair for Gail to be like, are you sure? That your final answer. I felt like it wasn't fair almost,
because I think they have to submit, like, at some point they have to submit the name of their dish to as part of the judging process, I believe.
Yeah, I wonder if he just got so wrapped up in in making gnocchi that he couldn't look at it from like above and be like, oh, that's not actually gnocchi at all. It is like, if I say dumplings, then that's a better catch-all.
Yeah, you get refresh your browser memory and just come into it brand new and say, okay, this is where I'm starting. What is this, and what can I do from here? Don't worry about
that. To me was blatant favoritism towards Sue from Gail, and you know what? I support it.
Oh, because I see, because she was helping. I mean, she was, because a lot of times they really do call them out on it. But that's usually when they don't like it, I guess. If they hate it.
That's fair enough. So they're just like, well, it wasn't a gnocchi. Like, okay, cool, great. Whatever you say.
I used to get really upset by that, because I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what they call it as long as it is what it is, as long as you like it. But then I do understand the expectation setting does make a difference, though. I think when you go in expecting one thing and suddenly it's something else, even if it's good, it's still kind of, you're taken aback a little bit.
Yeah. I would have been interested to try Laura's duck tamal, but the way
the texture just like looks so weird. Like, I think had some texture issues this episode.
I had zero interest in it. I'm not a fan of, the only way I like duck is actually when it's like roasted Chinese duck. And any other way that I've had it, it always feels a little dry to me. I don't. Maybe I just haven't had good duck. I've tried it quite a few times, and I never. Not my thing.
And honestly, I think it was more the huckleberry that was drawing me in than the duck. Like I was like, oh,
if there's anything Curt loves, it is a berry.
A berry sauce.
Yeah, and I guess that goes against my whole cranberries and meat kind of being like, I don't like that. But just I was like, I want to see what this huckleberry sauce tastes like. And yeah, if the duck is the delivery vehicle, that's fine. But whenever they get into the thing where it's like it all, we've seen this several times during this season and previous seasons where the judges say it all had the same texture. And regardless of, and usually that texture is soft and makes the dish sound very unappealing. And so the moment that was the reaction to her dish, I'm like, I'm good.
They've only made one texture this entire episode. And that was mush.
Yeah.
Slug-like.
Oh gosh, darn it.
Yeah. I would have definitely liked it, because every so often you'll get whenever the chefs use an ingredient or a term that's not widely known, or even if it's only semi-widely known, they'll be like in the lower third, just that brief, tweet length description of what they mean when they say, crepinette or whatever. I would have liked for each of these dishes a little bit more commentary, a little bit more than that lower third, to like get the, like was it Dan's dish where the person said that they could tell that the I can't remember if it was the goose or what element, the sunflower, but then the produce came from their land.
Yeah. No, that was the
stew. Wild rice.
That was wild rice. Okay, that's right. And maybe that's, I wonder if that's what saved Sue. Maybe saved Sue isn't the right term, because he did end up in the top. But I think that commentary might have gained traction before Tom could play but it wasn't gnocchi card. But I would like more commentary about like how well each of these delivered on the brief, not just how well was this a dish.
True. Can we talk a little bit about Michelle's dish? Because the minute she was like, I'm gonna put this in the oven just to crisp it up a little bit, and I was like, girl, don't do that. Like, it's gonna dry it out. And then, like, sure enough, they were like, it's a little bit dry. And like,
and then she was like, you know what, I was gonna fix it if I pour the sauce, not touching the duck, but or the rabbit, but around it. And then they're like, this cake is now mushy. I'm like,
I was like, you're not pouring it on the rabbit. You're putting it on the polenta cake, which is already soft and falling apart. Like, I did not understand any of the logic behind that. And rabbit is kind of lean, right? Yeah. So like when you crisp something up, what I want crisp is the skin. I don't want my meat crisped up. Like, to me, that feels like dry.
I don't want it to stab my palate.
Exactly.
I also had an issue. Amanda, I love you so much. I need you to know I love you so much. That tortilla was abysmal. Like it was
like a hockey puck.
It was so. I'm so sorry. I love you. It was bad.
Duck fat tortilla does sound very tasty.
Oh yeah, I mean, F me up with that, but not that one in particular.
I did. Was it Michelle? I liked her comment, just the side comment about that she needs to smoke something.
That was great.
And then looks directly at the camera.
The side eye, guys. The side eye into the camera was great.
Yeah. Usually we wait on Amanda to give us that, but
I was gonna say we get that a lot from Amanda.
I actually wrote this quote down because I thought it was so. She goes, "I definitely smoke a lot of things, food wise."
Jim Halpert is there.
And my note for, because I took notes. I'm such a good podcast guest. My note for her dish was, rabbit seemed dry, but I would eat anything on a corn cake. Here, I'll run you down my quick notes. The note I had for Amanda was, I'm not a fan of tataki, which I've already discussed. Danny, the pheasant looked good, a little boring. Laura, I just put tamale with haricot, which I guess is par for the course. Like, I feel like everything that she does is just a little bit, it's very precise and straightforward, but kind of bland. Sue's dish looked so unappetizing, but they loved it. Dan's dish sounded good, tasted good. Savannah did a jelly cake. I put looks good and it wasn't sweet. That was my notes for it. Manny, my note for that was duck, boring. And those were my quick notes on the elimination dishes.
There's been I feel like at least one good thing coming out of Top Chef Wisconsin is I feel like we're getting a renaissance on winning dessert dishes or top dessert dishes.
For sure.
I feel like we've had, either because the structure of the challenge mandated or highly implied that someone needed to do a dessert. Because we saw in Restaurant Wars, the one team was like, 3 courses, we're not doing a dessert for the third one. But there's been a lot more leaning into desserts and a lot more of the successful desserts this season. So I'm actually not mad about that part.
I'm a little bit curious about why they didn't mandate that they wanted a progression with this meal. Because don't you feel like in a lot of times in challenges, they're like, we're going to be eating this like as a sit down dinner. So we want you to do a progression with the meals. Like, and they didn't have, and maybe they felt it would be too restrictive with making them work with already like weird, not weird, but
I think for
that
sure. I think it
unusual ingredients.
Yeah, I think this was way more of like a challenge rather than like a dinner, if that like they were just looking at each dish individually. It just happened that Savannah's was one of the last one. Like it could have easily come second.
Right.
I mean, that could have easily been a build on this, is doing this in two, except for the fact they just did Restaurant Wars, do 2 teams of 4, make it a progressive dinner. They probably, because I think we've gone back and forth a little bit, PG, on whether or not Restaurant Wars, which has always taken place with 8 people. Last week it took place with 9. They did bring back 2 people, and so we're guessing that they do have now that extra person. So maybe this challenge is always supposed to be 7 people, which makes making it a team challenge difficult. And then again, right on the heels of Restaurant Wars, you don't necessarily want another 2-team challenge. But it would have been interesting to have like a 8-person progressive meal of some sort. Whereas like everybody, you guys figure it out. But that's the challenge.
So I'm sure you guys already probably talked about this when they brought them back, but like, I hated the 9-person Restaurant Wars. It felt really unfair and unbalanced, but also I really have disliked them constantly with the threat of maybe this is the day we kick off 2 contestants.
Totally. And now I'm glad that we've just have it. We've done it. We don't have to talk about it anymore. It's fine. We're just we're normies from here on out.
So I get that there's surprises. So surprise, there's an extra contestant, which I didn't really love that twist either. And I still can't figure out is Sue a ringer? Like, is he so good that they've been putting him in the back pocket because they knew that he would get through, Last Chance Kitchen, and they knew that he would make it far. And his cooking has been really different and interesting, actually. I think it's been a breath of fresh air. But like, what was really the point? Or is it that he was the 17th contestant and wasn't good enough to make it on? Like, I don't understand.
My theory is that due to sponsorship obligations and contracts, they were licensed for a certain number of Last Chance Kitchens. And when David Murphy, the first, the
Top Chef one, not the Survivor one.
Top Chef David, the first guy who was eliminated, who did not make it to Last Chance Kitchen for some reason, whatever that reason was, because they're pretending he didn't exist. There was no explanation. I think him not participating in LCK created a sponsorship problem, so they went to like the first alternate, which was Sue. That was my guess. And then I feel like, well, we've set this up to be this big twist. If he gets eliminated in like the first LCK, it's like, okay, that was a lot of, much ado about nothing. So there's a lot of mini conspiracies linked together in this one grand theory. Is I think that he was an alternate. David Murphy dropped out. He had to swap in. And at that point, the best story was, well, it'd be weird to eliminate him as this person who had to fight through Last Chance Kitchen. So let's bring him and whoever else wins back. That's my theory. That's probably wrong.
I mean, it was like, he's getting back onto the show. They're not going to do this whole thing for him to just get eliminated on LCK. And it's like, why make him go through the motions? Just put him on. Although I do think that there's at least he's cooking there, because you're definitely at a disadvantage when you come in halfway through the show. I just, having been on these shows, yes, they're going to have twists, but it always just feels unfair. It feels unfair that they brought in another contestant, but also that suddenly, well, maybe we'll just eliminate two if we feel like it. It's so arbitrary. And, when you're like a contestant on these things, you're kind of clinging to the rules.
Yeah.
That it's like your lifeline to know how to kind of get through if you're serious about winning.
Which is why the chaos episode was horrible, right, PG?
How dare you insult the person who has the power to end the podcast right now?
She's like, I will eliminate two of the hosts right now.
I have the power to kick both of you out and finish this on my own.
And then you'll talk about Last Chance Kitchen, Haley?
Yeah, I'll talk about Last Chance Kitchen. Speaking of, Kurt, what happened on Last Chance Kitchen? A side note, PG, I live in Canada and I have not found a way to be able to watch Last Chance Kitchen now that it's on Peacock.
I almost forgot until like about 5.
You almost pulled a Haley?
I almost pulled a Haley. It was like literally, PG, when you messaged me, when I got your message, I was like 5 minutes into watching the first of 2 Last Chance Kitchen episodes, Haley, because it was like 2 13-minute episodes. I thought that meant it was going to be, it didn't need to be 2 Last Chance Kitchen episodes, because there's really one challenge that they just split into 2 episodes. So, Haley, because you've seen the spreadsheet. Never mind.
Yeah, I've seen the spreadsheet.
Yeah. So Laura and Amanda come in. Kevin is already there. And and I know we were talking last week, we were wondering if Kalina was going to be in the peanut gallery with Rosika. She was not.
Wow.
I thought that she might still. I understand that that's just probably what she didn't need. That's that, like she had stepped away from Last Chance Kitchen voluntarily, saying I'm done I want to take care of my health. But I was wondering if she would still be there to comment. But no.
What about all of the others? It was like usually at this point there'd be like 5 or 6 sitting there.
Once they have the people return, anybody who was kicked out pre-merge doesn't get to continue on as a part of the peanut gallery.
It's kind of a shame.
Yeah, especially because I think you get. I mean, I understand there's cost savings, I guess, because they're not like, but still.
And I think it's like the filming schedule, because like they film all of the quick fire, the Last Chance Kitchen on one day. So like they have like a first half of the season day where they film all of it in one day, so that they're already there. They don't have to go like sleep at a hotel and come back the next day. Like they're sitting there for the entire 6 hours. And then so they all leave when like the people go back in, and then they're resetting it, and there's like a second Last Chance Kitchen day where they all go through.
That's why
production magic. I had no idea.
That's why Sue was so exhausted. Was it Denver where brother came back?
Yeah, no, it was Kentucky where Brother Luck came back, and he like went. It was like basically they finished the challenge, went right into another challenge, and he was so exhausted he didn't do well, and he went out in that challenge, and then he also did the like, I'm not doing this again. Like I just did this. Like I can't do it again.
Was that the challenge where I remember there was one where they brought the current contestants on and they were already complaining that, it's like 6 a.m. We have to wake up so early to go in the kitchen. I wonder what could be happening. And they walk in the kitchen and these poor guys in LCK had already been cooking for hours, you know? And so it's like, what time did they start at, like 3 a.m?
Probably. So all we have is Rosika, and she was doing her best. I can't wait till we get additional commentary. But Tom asked them, like, what's the one thing that's a staple of every season of Top Chef that we haven't done yet? And Amanda was like, mise en place challenge. And they're like, yes, that's it exactly. They were presented with a table full of options that they had to prepare, that they had to mise en place. Whether it was filleting, cod, or supreming a line. But rather than like in the normal relay race where you have everybody doing this, then this, then this, basically you had to choose what your 5 mise en place challenges were going to be. And those 5 things were going to be the ingredients you had to make a dish with. So it's like, I might be able to supreme these oranges very quickly, but then that's going to be one of the 5 ingredients I have to use in my dish. And they weren't.
Yeah, I could tell Amanda's a gamer because she's like, I'm going to supreme all the lemons, the oranges, and the limes. Any citrus fruit coming to me, supremed. It's supremed. Don't even worry about it.
She not only knew how to fly through supreming, she also took, for the most part, all of the acids away from the other contestants.
That's so funny.
They weren't told what the benefit of coming in first and finishing your 5 tasks first would be. They just said you would want to come in first, you wouldn't want to come in last. They were conjecturing whether or not they would be eliminated. They just weren't told. So Amanda finished first. She had to separate. I tried to capture. In some cases, they will tell exactly what the specific task was. Amanda had to separate 18 eggs. She then supremed 6 lemons, 6 oranges, and 6 limes, but not before she also had to grate 1 quart of cheddar cheese. We had all 3 of the contestants on the last stage of this simultaneously. Kevin finished second. He had to debone an unspecified number of chickens. He had to shuck 12 ears of corn, peel and slice 1 quart of cremini mushrooms, chop a certain number of onions, and then peel 4 heads of garlic. And then Laura, she had to fillet 2 sea bass. So she didn't get that. She thought that, oh, here's just the sea bass I can cook with. I just have to fillet one of them. She didn't see the little sign that said, no, because she said, done. Tom came over, checked her work. She only filleted 1 of her 2 fish. She had a chiffonade, 3 bunches of kale, de-seed 3 pomegranates, chop some parsley and julienne. I think it was julienne, like the thinly sliced, thin slices of yellow peppers. And the reward, the prize for winning, for the second step when they actually had to cook something, for coming in first, Amanda had 30 minutes. Kevin had 25 minutes, and Laura coming in last had 20 minutes. So yeah, that was the challenge. I'm not sure. What did PG? What you watched this, correct?
Really quick, yeah, like briefly. While I was doing my makeup to come on to the show. Do we like the use of the mise en place challenge here, or do we kind of miss it from the main episode? I really missed it in the main episode. I think it's one of those. Excuse me. I think it's one of those fun challenges where the personality of the contestants come out. You know, they're bantering, they're making funny remarks. Some people are messing up, some people are flying through it. And I think it's like a really fun challenge. And I feel like I'm missing a lot of the fun in this season. I feel like a lot of the contestants have been a little bit emotionless. Actually, I saw the most emotion from Laura, and even Amanda, like in this Last Chance Kitchen, more than I had seen in the entire season so far.
It feels like it's a lot more casual. Tom gets to crack his dad jokes. The thing I liked about the mise en place challenge as part of the main episode is you got a chance to see the contestants who are still in the game shine at something. Usually, like there's somebody who's going to be a whiz at deboning something. There's somebody who's going to be amazing at shucking corn, strangely, and they set themselves up in teams such that they each get to play on their strength. Yeah, there might be somebody who gets I've never done this before, but everybody else is doing the things they're amazing at. Like we got to see here, though, we got to see Kevin debone chickens very quickly, and a little bit of his backstory behind that. But
and it brings out a little bit of that competitive drive, which I think is great because, again, me like down with the kumbaya. I want to see them like really kind of getting competitive and cheering on their team and like.
I can tell that PG is not a Libra.
No, I'm an Aries.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're like, there's not enough fist fights here for me.
Exactly. I want to see the world burn.
It was interesting though, in terms of like there there were a lot of different strategic angles to the ingredient choice, because on one hand,
there's strategy in the mise en place. That's why I like it too, because it does require some amount of strategizing.
Yeah, and in the main episode, it's like, who are we going to put on what? But here it was a mix of what can I do quickly, and what do I want to take before somebody else gets, and well, those are the two big things. I think that, so
did they choose it like 1, 2, 3, or did one person go and they chose all 5 at once?
No, you could only grab, that was the thing, you could only grab one ingredient at a time. So once like Kevin, he grabbed, it was like that mad rush for the first ingredient, like we saw in the cranberry challenge. There was only one ingredient, but it was a race to grab your first ingredient, and then it was, Laura couldn't grab her second ingredient until she had successfully deboned those 2 sea bass. So it's like,
I see.
Yeah. So you're like, I can do this quickly, and then, but do I really want the ingredients? But if I do this quickly, I can get to my second ingredient faster than the other people do. And you can finish all 5 of your ingredients, potentially faster, and get some sort of bonus that you don't know what it is yet. So I think that's why once Amanda had taken the oranges and the lemons, like the only true like citrus fruit there still left was the limes. I don't know if the other people are like, well, I can take the limes last. So I don't need to take those now. But then, because what are the odds that Amanda's going to take the limes too? But she did, and she got to her 5th ingredient before everybody else did. And so, I think lots of different strategic choices. It was an interesting game from that perspective, but I do kind of miss it being in the main episode, unfortunately. But yeah, the first episode of Last Chance Kitchen ended with Amanda saying check on her 5th ingredient, and it was like Tom coming over, and the cliffhanger, which you had to wait 10 seconds for to have it resolved, was whether or not she was correct in her prepping, and she was. And then Laura was behind the entire time, but caught up very quickly, but still finished just behind Kevin. But yeah, then the second episode is really just devoted to their cooking with these 3 ingredients. Kevin made a chicken thigh and breast with confit onion, roasted corn, chicken, and mushroom bouillon, which Tom described as basically a French onion chicken soup. Laura made grilled sea bass with kale and tahini spread, yellow harissa, and olive tapenade. So the 5 ingredients that they did in the first stage, they still had access to an entire pantry. They just had to make sure they utilized those 5 ingredients. Like, I think she got like olives and capers for the tapenade. Laura did for her dish. And then Amanda, she went with the dessert. She had a citrus cake with Pernod Sauvignon, cheddar cheese frico, and bruleed citrus. Lots and lots of bruleed citrus. And Tom informed before he passed judgment. He was like, well, first of all 3 of these are really great.
They looked delicious, all of them.
They did. And I think he was, but there was no way he was going to let all 3 advance. He said there was one thing that was wrong with one element of one dish, and it turns out I think Kevin's chicken was a little bit overcooked. And
that was
so
like a feel bad moment because he wasn't even it wasn't that overcooked, but just a hair over. And that's what sends you home. Like, ouch.
He was a good sport about it. He didn't punch anyone. Sorry, PG. But so and from our draft in the first part of the season, I was in the position where Laura and Amanda were both on my team. So I only have Manny in the main competition now. So I was happy to at least see both of them saved. I would have, from a personality perspective, I've really enjoyed Kevin. So I would have loved to see Kevin and Amanda.
I've enjoyed him from a lot of different perspectives.
I know you have. We will not get a chance to see a Power Bottom reunion in Last Chance Kitchen in terms of Manny a mano between Manny and Kevin. But yeah, so Kevin is out, and so he'll be part of the peanut gallery next week. And next week is the last Chance Kitchen.
Ever?
this season. Because he told Tom told Amanda and Laura that they are now in the finale for Last Chance Kitchen, unless it's some weird twist where they still take 2 more people and those have to fight, and then they bring it. It sounds like next week is the last Chance Kitchen. So,
well, look at that. What a season they've had over there.
Yeah, I mean, I had my money on Russica and Michelle. Was kind of like my 2, winner picks. So I'm bummed that one of them is out, but my girl Michelle is still in it.
Latanya would love to hear that. She's a big Michelle stan, and I, especially after like Russica had like 2 back-to-back elimination challenge wins, I was sure she was in for the long haul. So I was very not happy with her leaving, but I've still got Manny.
PG, what fun things have you eaten this week?
This week has not been great for eating fun stuff. But what did so I live in Koreatown in Los Angeles, which means I'm surrounded by a lot of really, really good ethnic food. And literally at the corner from where I live is a place called, well, I'm not going to say the name, but it is a Korean noodle shop. And they have the best dumplings there. They're just like my mom's, but better. And I took my parents there actually last week, and I told my mom that they get a lot. Like, I am amazed they get so much meat put in this dumpling, and it doesn't burst. Like, it's magic. I don't know how they do it. It's absolutely delicious. And then they have this sauce that they make that I'm obsessed with, which is like green onion and soy sauce and maybe white pepper and who knows, I don't know, some other things, but it is so addictive. And they have like a little jar on the table that's like this big, like a condiment jar, and I probably eat like half of it every time I go.
Yeah,
excellent. Now I'm dying for dumplings.
Whenever I go to LA, I don't know if you've been to 8 Korean barbecue, the number 8. Their specialty is they have 8 kinds of marinated pork belly.
The pork. Oh yeah. I've been there.
Oh, so good. I missed that. Oh. we were just talking last week about, because we had the one restaurant wars where the kitchen was where it was the Mexican Korean fusion restaurant, and when I lived in Chicago, we lived right down the street from a place that was called La Taqueria, which was Mexican in Korea, like bulgogi burritos and things like that. So it's I wish
Koji truck here in LA that was kind of, I think, one of the first people to do it. The started like the food truck revolution, but also the Korean Mexican fusion, and it's still delicious. It's so yummy.
Is that David Chang?
Who?
Is that David Chang's truck? I'm trying to remember.
Was Roy? Maybe, yes. I think.
That's right. Because when I lived in Woodland Hills, that food truck parked on the street, like right behind mine, and so I would always make sure I checked out their website every week to say, okay, what days and what hours are you going to be here? Because that was some amazing shit. Good stuff.
Yeah, but no, and then last week, my sisters and I came home. I had eaten at Pitfire Pizza, and I had leftovers. So I go in the fridge and I get my leftover pizza out, and I'm nomming it. It's like, I don't know, 11 p.m., little midnight snacky. And my sister looks at me and she goes, "Where'd you get that pizza from?" And I was like, "The fridge." She was like, "But from where?" And I was like, "From Pitfire." And she goes, "I know it's from Pitfire, but like," she was like, "How dare you eat it?" And I was like, "How dare you ask me? Like, what are you talking about?" And it turns out she had also gone to Pitfire and come back at a different location, and had also come back with leftovers that she was saving for her lunch at work the next day. And
were those hers?
No, they were mine.
They were
We had both come home with leftovers from Pitfire on the same day. And it was just, she said it was the most confusing thing. Like, why you just so brazenly eating my pizza and like unapologetically,
like in my face, like not even hiding the evidence.
How dare you?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Kurt,
But
what
I was
fun
like,
things?
oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. No, I ask Kurt what he eats every single week. I don't get to hear you talk about pizza with your sister every week.
No, I was just like, I would have, but even if it was hers, I would have eaten it anyway. That was my closing remark.
You know, yeah, it's like if we have leftovers, we have to like sit down and discuss like, okay, who's getting the leftovers? Like,
I
what
just
part of
started
the
eating
leftovers
them.
are we getting?
They start going bad in the fridge, and then and then we're constantly like, your stuff is molding in the fridge, and like, well, why didn't you eat? So I'm like, I'm just gonna eat it from now on. Yeah.
Kurt, what did you eat this week?
It's not been terribly exciting. There's a chain here in the Midwest, Jets Pizza. It's Detroit style pizza, so with a rectangular, thicker crust. They had a triple pepperoni pizza that just was calling to me, so I got that. I'll delve into like the junk food.
I have a hot take. I hate deep dish pizza.
This isn't.
Detroit's different.
Yeah, this is thick crust. It's not deep dish. It's like think picture like a Pizza Hut pan pizza where it's just a thicker crust. It's not thin crust like New York, but it's also not a lasagna or like a casserole like a deep dish.
Behind that.
I have been discovering just like a few weeks ago, I was discovering all sorts of new Blue Diamond almond flavors. Now I'm discovering all sorts of.
Yeah. Who could forget?
I still have my elote almonds, but Pop-Tarts. Oh. There's banana bread Pop-Tarts. There's Snickerdoodle Pop-Tarts, hot fudge sundae Pop-Tarts. I'm like, so I like bought like a sampling of like many of them, and I put them in the freezer and eat them cold, and they go nowhere near the toaster.
Interesting.
This is getting worse. This is getting worse and worse by the minute.
PG has not seen any fighting on her TV show, so she is going to pick a fight
I'm starting the drama.
I'm glad it's not with me.
I am not a Pop-Tart fan. I think I'm a diehard toaster strudel kind of gal.
Okay. I
Do they even make those anymore? I don't even know.
They did. I think Pillsbury's the toaster strudels. I believe they make them. I've really only ventured more into like the toaster, like the Pillsbury breakfast toaster strudels, where it's like ham, egg, and cheese, but in a Pop-Tart.
Those are very good too, and I always put ketchup over the top, but I drizzle it on the way they do the icing. In the commercials.
It's like it looks like strawberry sauce, but it's really ketchup on the savory.
I didn't know there were savory.
Those are really good. I haven't had them in 20 years.
And the thing is, whenever I made those, there was like this like silver dollar sized circle in the center that was never cooked. So you'd eat the warm outside of the, like you'd be eating it and everything would be fine. Oh, this is tasty. And then you just bite into this like cold center. And it's probably just an issue with my toaster oven, but yeah, it's been a while since I've had those too. It's just I've always kind of failed in my preparations. French toast bagels. That's another thing I've recently discovered. There's the same place where I would get my cranberry sauce from the deli. They've got quite a variety of bagels for sale there. So big fan of the French toast bagels. But yeah,
have you had Hong Kong style French toast?
I have not. I'm not a huge. That thing is, I'm not a huge French toast fan, which is the only. But this bagel is amazing. But that's the only reason I can definitively say I've not had Hong Kong French toast. Well, although I was in Hong Kong twice for work, probably like 8 years ago, and they did have the huge breakfast buffet. There was like the little section for the cowardly Americans, and then there was like the more local fare that was in the rest of it. And I was trying like the dumpling. I was trying everything. So I might have had.
This is a specialty that you would find at like a Hong Kong style cafe, like a cha tang, which is where you would get like the milk tea and all those casual Hong Kong style cafes. And it is using thicker toast. So like that kind of thick Hong Kong style toast that they'll serve with condensed milk sometimes. But this one is like, I think it's almost deep fried because it gets really crispy. Whatever egg top, and it's like bubbly and like there's like brown crispy edges, and I don't know what it is, but it is the best toast. It's what I almost always get at these Hong Kong style cafes, is that Hong Kong style French toast with like a side of Spam and milk tea. This is a very classic Hong Kong breakfast.
I can't remember if we talked about it on the podcast. Oh yeah, I think I talked about the tiki bar across the street, Haley. How I got a side of the fried Spam with the Gorgonzola burger. Took me a while to get through all that. Lots of very, very salty fried Spam. Oh boy, you need a lot of water to get that down.
Yeah, see, I don't love a lot of things that go in like hard in any of the directions, because I am a Libra. I like balance in all things. So the Spam, I just don't think I can do. And also the Pop-Tarts. I'm very picky about Pop-Tarts. I can only do the strawberry ones, and I can only do one out of the package because it's too sweet for me.
To me, it's like I could never.
You're in for a penny, in for a pound, so you eat the entire box in one sitting. Is that what you're trying to tell me right now, Kurt?
Very close to it. It's like I always eat both Twix. I always eat both Reese's peanut butter cups. I always eat both.
Oh no! See, I'm so good at like if there's 3 Reese's peanut. I mean, not that I eat Reese's peanut butter cups, because again, they're too rich for me. I get a headache right here. I can very easily eat one and be like, "All right, that was great. See you later." Other 2.
That reminds me when Mike Bloom was part of the podcast. I think. Do you remember when he was complaining about carbonated water and how it would just tickle his lips and he couldn't drink it? He was like, "Oh, Michael."
Oh my gosh.
How about you, Haley? What have you been eating this week?
Let me pull out my phone because then I can look at pictures of.
Did I see pancakes?
Pancakes
on TikTok?
Oh yeah, a while ago. I think it just came up in your feed now because I did make that for my my sister-in-law and my current husband a couple of weeks ago. It's barbecue season finally. So I made a steak on the barbecue, and I also have like a little cast iron pan, like just a tiny guy, and I put butter and garlic and stuff and like made some shrimp in that, and that was delicious because I'm such a shrimp girly. I want shrimp on everything and anything. What else did I even eat this week? Oh, I made garlic fingers. So this is kind of like an East Coast post-bar crawl snack. It is basically like a pizza, but instead of like pizza sauce, it's like a garlic bechamel.
Breadstick kind of thing.
But not quite breadsticks. Like not like an Olive Garden breadstick, but they're like cut in sticks. They're on my Bookstagram account at the Strong Library because I made them for my cookbook. They were really delicious, and I made a donair sauce to go with it, which I had to like warn my friends who aren't used to what donair sauce is. What it is. That? It is sweetened condensed milk, vinegar, and garlic salt just mixed together, and you just dip the garlic fingers in that.
I'm sorry. I just feel like you said 3. This felt like a which one doesn't belong here. Like
none of them belong. It's insane. It's so
okay.
Insane.
Can we unpack this? It's condensed milk,
sweetened condensed milk,
which I love, and then with
vinegar.
With vinegar.
White vinegar. Yeah.
This was out of left field. You could have literally have said anything else. Yeah. And I would have.
Which she did. She then said garlic powder. None of those 3 things sound like they would go together.
No, they don't. They certainly don't. But boy, when you dip a garlic finger in it, it is excellent.
I have to make this immediately.
Yeah.
I am so intrigued by this because I could see, we're back to the balance. It's sweet, it's creamy, it's acid, it's pungent, it's savory. Like I like all of those things.
Yeah,
I like all the things you just said. I've just never had them.
Just not in just Google like East Coast like garlic finger, and like the recipe will come up, and also like they'll be and we also dip in donair sauce. Here it is.
But do you like cook the sauce? Is there any processing done to this?
You put it in the fridge for an hour.
What's the thick? Like, what's the consistency?
Do you
Is it?
really want me to say it? Like,
Are you
there's only
thinking
one
pills?
word for it, and
It's
I can't say
slimy.
it on the podcast.
It's slug-like. The answer is slug-like.
No, you type it in the chat, Haley. If you can't say the podcast. Okay, that's not a descriptor as much as it's a parallel. Okay.
That's all.
I'm gonna rush out and make this.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
The next? What kind of vinegar?
Just white.
White, like white vinegar. Okay.
And then
No,
is this
just
minced
white vinegar.
garlic? Is this garlic powder?
Garlic powder for the sauce. But
I'm
like
making
garlic
this.
fingers require here. Let me see. Give me. This won't be the
I
exact.
have to know what this tastes like.
Well, I think we've been told. Oh wait, that's the consistency. Never mind.
And then speaking of Detroit style pizza, my husband Ethan, he like gets something in his mind and he like needs to do it. And so his project this week was a Detroit style pizza. Like he was dying for a Detroit style pizza. So he made that. I made the dough. And it was really, really delicious. And I love a Detroit style pizza, and it was excellent.
Donair sauce is as East Coast as it gets. This sweet, sour, garlicky sauce is used for many East Coast delicacies, including the Donair garlic fingers. And, well, that's really it.
It's very specific. But it very much works with the garlic fingers. I don't know if I'd recommend just like eating it on its own. Like that's a little weird, but with the garlic fingers.
What is Donair sauce? A mixture of evaporated milk, white vinegar, garlic powder, sugar, and salt. I see that you've combined the evaporated milk and the sugar, and you just use condensed milk. You kind of
the recipe I saw was evaporated or condensed milk, and I said, "All right,
now
sauce, I'm in."
These are the next directions. Simply mix all of those ingredients together. Allow them to curdle. Then slowly stir.
This is getting better.
Yum.
Okay, but all of the East Coast girlies, like I know if you're listening to this, please just like tell them I'm not crazy.
I feel like I need to make this and maybe film a reaction video.
Please.
I'm probably not gonna do that, but
you have to like let us know. You have to make it.
If I have the ingredients, I might try. But then I feel like it maybe the next time I get some type of cheesy, butter like breadsticks or something that because I feel like you have to eat it the way it's intended, which is dipping these cheesy kind of bread sticky things into it. So
you know what you could do is order. It's a pizza from Domino's. You just get like the garlic base and just like the 4 cheese topping, like nothing else, and that will, I think, be a very good vehicle for Donair sauce.
Now, there's another thing on here that I feel obliged to point out, which is what is the best way to reheat Donair sauce?
You don't.
The answer is you don't. Donair sauce isn't meant to be warmed or hot.
No, certainly not.
You are supposed to eat it like coldish room temperature-ish.
Yeah.
It feels like Happy Fun Ball. Do not heat Donair sauce. Like avoid all it. Oh, can you imagine? I don't even want to know what would happen if you tried to heat it. With the world would implode.
Like the sauce itself is already like goes against science, so I don't think you want to push it further by heating it.
No, do not include chemical reactions into the system.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna create one of those sauces that are like the non-Newtonian fluids. You can like walk on them or something if you have a vat big enough.
Oh, well,
that was it,
Haley.
I didn't realize that would devolve into such a thing. I am sorry, everyone. You know what? You're welcome. You are so welcome.
Intrigued.
PG, where can people find you on the internet if you want to be found on the internet?
Well, I do have a podcast. It is not food related, but It is called Reality Escape Pod. It is also not about reality TV, as much as it kind of sounds like it would be. It is instead about escape rooms and immersive gaming. We interview creators of all of these different cool experiences. And if you're interested in any of that, definitely come check out the podcast. Again, that's Reality Escape Pod. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, all the places. I'm at PG, PEIHGEE. Yeah. So swing by, say hi.
Curt.
Oh, go ahead, PG.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say thank you so much for having me on. This has been a ton of fun, and thanks for allowing me to indulge in my love of Top Chef.
Truly, anytime. If there's an episode where you're like, wow, I need to talk about it, just slide into our DMs and just like come on down.
As for me, first of all, I'll co-sign PG's plug for Reality Escape Pod. Great podcast, great community. Please check it out. For me, you can find me primarily on Instagram at Curt Clark with 2 C's. You'll find photos of the foods I make and eat. I did forget, I made a Kung Pao style chicken last night as part of a meal kit. It was pretty tasty. Food, escape room photos, book photos. Those are probably the top 3 things trending on my Instagram. At Curt Clark on the Instas. And that's probably about it for me. Haley?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @strong_. You can check out a picture of my Detroit style pizza over on my Instagram too, if you want. Ooh. It was really delicious. And you can check out everything I am reading on my Bookstagram account at the Strong Library. It is about to become it has already become very Bridgerton focused, as my hyperfixation on the new season of Bridgerton has commenced. So that is what is going on over there. PG, thank you so much for coming and joining us. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
Like I said, anytime.
Thanks for having me on. I basically invited myself on.
That's fine.
I didn't even know that Curt hosted the Top Chef podcast. And I was like, what? I was like, I want to come on. And he was like,
works for us. Totally. And until then, pack your knives and go. Bye.
Bye.